voice of truth tells me a different story. I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth.
So, every month we do these, and what we know universally is the people that get the best results are the ones that are here. So go ahead and do this. And now go like this, right? Big hug for yourself, okay? Because it's no coincidence that that happens, because what it is when we think about our body and we think about our nervous system, what we know to be true is that lifespan equals life flow plus lifestyle, okay? So one of the central themes we're always going to talk about is the nervous system. You're always going to hear me talk about that. That's going to be the first thing that comes out of my mouth. But in order to achieve that lifespan equals life flow, we have to have the lifestyle. So every single month I encourage you, come to these, bring your friends, bring your family, bring your church members, your next door neighbors, people you don't even know, right? Because the more that we can implant just seeds of information in people's mind to give them the right knowledge so they can make different and better decisions about their health, the more we can transform this community. And that's what we want to do. That's what our mission is here. And I hope that that's what your mission is, because that's another central theme in the people that get the best results. Those are the ones, they're part of the Helping Hands ministry that we have. They're helping out with events. They're coming to the dinner talks. They're just getting involved, just sharing, right? Because so many times whenever we're part of anything, whether it's leading people towards spirituality or salvation if you believe in Jesus, or whether it's health, it's really about sharing, isn't it? It's not self-oriented, is it? It's other people oriented. And that's why we do a lot of things in groups around here too. Because we know innately in order for you to get better, it's an energetic thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's an emotional thing. So I always tell people when you come in here, that's the reason this office is designed the way it is. I mean, I think my wife's a pretty good interior decorator, right? Absolutely. But the other reason is because we want you to feel relaxed. You know, I always tell new patients when they come in now, the days of you going into an office, shaking somebody's hand after they put that toxic little pump of cream on there that smells like Clorox or something, and then they shake your hand with a weird face like this, like a mummy, and then they tell you to sit in the waiting lobby or lobby area for like an hour and a half, something like that, and read a bunch of crappy magazines, and then they don't even apologize. Right? They're like not even sorry about it. If I'm late like 10 minutes, I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness, we had an emergency, we had this going on, right? So we want to start to reframe that. And that starts with you getting involved, okay? So I really, really felt just in my innate soul that stress and digestion, you know, some of you that wanted the resistance stretching workshop, you're probably really frustrated with me because I put it off like 4 months. And the reason I have is because there's been so many themes in the practice, and one of the themes I've noticed is stress, emotional stress. It is such a big thing. So we're always going to pound that. We're always going to talk about that. And its influence on digestion and what that does for your system. Because how many people here think that their thoughts emotionally, whether you're conscious of the thought patterns or the stresses that you have, or whether some of those are subconscious, how many of you think that those influence your digestive system? Yeah. And some of you are sitting here right now and you've got rheumatoid arthritis, you've got gout, you're working on it. Some of these things are going away in your body. When you used to, before you even came here, you had all this stuff going on, and what did they try to do? They just tried to medicate it, didn't they? All they tried to do is put a Band-Aid on it to cover it up instead of getting to the root cause. So I get people that come in here with 10 different medications, right? And some of them, they've been sleeping in, you know, lazy boys for years, 5, 10, 15 years, because they can't sleep in a regular bed because it hurts too much. A patient of ours named Ann Lamar, I mean, she was a CEO of this huge company, right? Couldn't sleep in a bed. She was in the corporate world for years. Couldn't sleep in a regular bed because of the pain. Fibromyalgia type symptoms. So anything you have going on in your body, you can always link back to chemical stress. So what do we mean by chemical stress? Well, that's digestive stress, right? So why do you think it's in a triangle? Why do you think I always talk about this triangle? We always refer back to it.
They all affect each other.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. They all affect each other. So the chemical is going to affect the emotional is going to affect the physical, And this is like a circle. I mean, it could be a triangle, but we could have drawn it as a circle too, because they're all interrelated. So every time before I prepare for a talk, I always pull. I was telling Caden this, because Caden's kind of like my protege. She's probably going to, be here for hopefully a year, 2 years, 3 years, try to milk the situation for as long as I can, right? And then she's going to fly away like a bird and go to my alma mater, Life University, the best school in all of holistic chiropractic, right? By Dr. Guy Reekman. He's the chancellor of the school. Amazing, amazing school. So before she flies away, though, I'm imparting some knowledge on her. And what I always do is I always pull a stack of research. I always pull a stack of research to share with you guys. Because I can always learn, can't I? I don't know everything, right? And it was interesting because we were at a seminar this weekend, and it was on neuroimmunology, okay? How the brain and the nervous system work together. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I already got some extra stuff to throw in on the Stress and Digest workshop. Because the first thing that we talked about is something called a microbiome. Who in here has heard of a microbiome? You guys are like probably thinking the Scooby-Doo thing right now. You're like, I don't even know what that means, Doc. Well, the microbiome says basically that we are a walking ecosystem. Our bodies are a walking ecosystem of different bacteria and genetical codes and flora and all this stuff, right? So next time, somebody asks you what your body's made up of, yes, it's made up of water, but it's made up of all this other stuff, like bacteria and like genetic code and DNA strands and all these different things. Well, when are those formed? Well, part of them are formed in utero, right? But everything that you do throughout your life, and especially in the first few years, months, seconds of life, influences that genetic code, influences your immune system. And that's called your microbiome. It's your ecosystem. And you can read, I'm not going to read to you. Well, yeah, maybe I will. We aren't just single individuals walking the planet. We're walking ecosystems. Like our planet, the human body has many different environments, each with a unique set of biotic and ambiotic factors. Your microbial friends, a few microbes cause disease, but most do not. In fact, many are essential for good health. So essentially what some of those definitions there are saying is you're a walking ecosystem of different flora, different bacteria, and all these different things that come together to make you. So how many people think that just like key things in our life, like kind of like what we would call like pivotal plateaus in our life, like being born, for instance, whether we're vaginal or C-section, how many people here think that that influences our immunity or lack thereof? Absolutely, right? So just even having those fluids around your body as you're bridging the birth canal influences your immune system, influences your genetical code, your ecosystem, your microbiome. Does everybody understand what a microbiome is? So you're a walking ecosystem. Pretty cool, huh? So you've got all these different bacteria, all this different flora, all this different stuff that makes up you, and that's your microbiome. And if you're born through C-section, you're kind of not really giving your microbiome the best chance to run you at 100%. You're already at a disadvantage. Does that make sense? Because there's already essential things that you're not getting in your body that other people that were born vaginally have. Now, what's another thing that influences that early on in life?
Breastfeeding.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Love that. Absolutely. Breastfeeding is a key thing. This is read my mind, brother. God bless you. Right? What's another thing? Skin-to-skin contact early on. So these are kind of three essential things that early on are going to influence what happens later on in life. So this is setting the stage. These are like the building blocks, aren't they? Now, early on in life, what do you think that child is getting that might influence that microbiome? What's happening to the child? What's happening to you? What are some of the things that we're doing to our bodies or our parents are doing to our bodies early on in life?
Smoking. Injections.
All sorts of stuff, right? We got injections, smoking. Yeah, all that's true. Is that going to affect your body?
Of course.
Sure.
Because let me ask you this. We all seem to think it's kind of crazy, right? When a woman's pregnant and the baby's inside, oh man, we got to watch. Better watch what you say. Better watch what you do. We got to walk the tightrope. We got to be careful about what we eat. And once the baby's born, it's like party time, right? Bring them around chemicals, pull the Clorox out, the baby's right there, we're doing some Clorox cleaning, right? All this stuff, and that influences the microbiome. Even what the mother still eats, because the breast milk's going to go where? Into the baby, right? It's going to go into the baby. So that's all influencing the microbiome. So yes, injections. One of the most common things that we see that's going to break down the microbiome is a certain drug that most people use early on in life for ear infections and stuff. What drug is a medical doctor? If you're little boy, little girl, mommy takes you to the pediatrician, what's a medical doctor most likely going to do? A general practitioner. What's that?
Antibiotics.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Not their fault. That's just the way they were trained. That's all they know, right? But they're going to do antibiotics. And each round, if those antibiotics don't work, what are they going to do? Yeah, double, triple, quadruple, whatever they need to do. They're going to obliterate all the flora. They're going to cut into that gut flora. They're going to cut into that good bacteria. It's basically like an explosion in your gut. So what that does is it creates gut permeability problems. Okay? So you hear that term leaky gut. When we talk gut permeability, that's what we're talking about. So early on, your microbiome is influenced, and it's setting the stage, basically, some of these life events. And there are other examples. I'm giving you the primary ones that a lot of people are either positively impacted by or negatively impacted by. How many people have never used antibiotics in their life? Not a single hand, right? Exactly. Drop the mic right there. So we know already, even if we did everything else right, that that's setting the stages for us to have immune system complications throughout the rest of our life, aren't we? But thank God that we know that there's a higher power that runs our body, right? God's going to run our body, whatever our spiritual compass is, right? But we know that the brain controls everything, don't we? And the brain sends signals down the spinal cord and out over the nerves to every cell, tissue, and organ. So even when the microbiome is messed up or it's compromised, can we overcome that? Is our body capable of healing that? Absolutely, but does it take a long time for that to happen? Definitely, right? Definitely takes a long time. It's just like spinal degeneration. It's just like some of the 20, 30, 10, 5 symptoms you had when you came in here, all the color you had on your scans when you came in here. It takes time to go backwards, and pardon the expression, Marty McFly that, if you will. Right? We want to go back to the future. Well, back to the past in this case, right? We want to go back to the way we used to be. But it takes time to do that because you're rewriting a lot of neuroimmune and neurotransmitters in your body. You're trying to get the body now to reorient itself because it's like, oh man, I was founded, the building blocks of the house, they're all messed up. They're not working anymore. They've been compromised. So when we talk stress and digestion, what all this research up here is saying is it's saying that throughout life, this triangle is influencing this triangle. So can everybody see? If you can't see, I'll scoot it up. Neurology, hormones, that's all endocrinology means. It's a fancy way of saying hormones. And our immune system. So stress is a central theme that's going to rock all three of these worlds. So chemical, physical, emotional, right? It all integrates. But stress is a central theme to rocking those three nervous systems. And what do we have here on the sides? It says neurotransmitters. What does that mean? Those are transmitters within your nervous system, right? That make cellular synapses for processes in your body cellularly to work, for anything to happen. Anything to happen, neurotransmitters have to be able to work and have to be able to function. Well, do you think the brain and spinal cord kind of has something to do with that? Absolutely. So when we talk about this microbiome and we talk about this gut permeability that's either really good by the time we're 3, 4, or 5, right? And it's being influenced throughout our life, or it's already gotten the foundation or building blocks to be really bad based on what our parents did, not their fault, they're doing the best they can, right? Then we have to talk about the other factors that are going to influence that. Because what do you think? You think medications is going to influence the microbiome? Do you think medications are going to affect the adrenal glands, affect the liver, affect digestion? So if I've got stress and I already have a microbiome that's compromised, I already have building blocks to a house that are shaky and not real good, and now I add emotional stress to that, or bullying, right? Absolutely. That's going to increase the uptake of something called cortisol. You guys hear me talk about cortisol all the time. Anybody heard of a part of your brain called the hypothalamus? Well, there's something called your hypothalamic adrenal axis. Say that 5 times. Hypothalamic adrenal axis. Okay? And the hypothalamic adrenal axis, and also there's the hypopituitary adrenal axis, both of those systems influence what happens in your adrenal glands. So your brain's going to signal your pituitary gland, which deal with hormones, to regulate cortisol the right way, so it's going to be in a state of homeostasis, or if you're stressed, it's going to signal it to regulate it the wrong way, negatively. Because to go back to another advanced healthcare class we had a couple of months ago, if I'm in the woods and a bear's trying to kill me and I'm running from the bear, what do we call that state? Fight or flight. Absolutely. Look at you guys, man. People come into the class. I love it. That's a sympathetic stress state or a fight or flight state. Now, do you think the hypothalamic or hypopituitary adrenal axis is going to be triggered by a bear trying to chase me, trying to kill me?
Yeah.
Can it also be triggered by a car wreck? Can it be triggered by financial stress? Can it be triggered by early abusive stuff, whether it be physical, emotional, or mental in my life? Absolutely. And that's what all this research says. So stuff you kind of innately know, it's backed up by research. Stuff that we're telling you in this office, it's backed up by research. The research is unequivocally saying that. It's saying that if you have early trauma, it's supporting everything that we're saying about neuroemotional technique and that we're saying about the breathing. And some of the guys are in here, yeah, doc, well, I don't know about this breathing stuff. It's kind of silly. It's kind of funny. I'm going to do it when I want. I'm on my own program, right? Well, if you're on your own program, what are your results like? They're on your own program results, right? And then you're like, oh, this doesn't work, doc. No, you didn't work for it, goofball, right? So we want you to be successful. So all these pieces that we're doing here really add up to not only reset that microbiome, but also reset this axis that I'm talking about. Because if it's off at all, because of any past trauma, you're going to get that uptake of cortisol. Your body's going to look for situations that are similar to your past trauma. I had a Marine in here today, right? Former Marine. And we're talking about stresses that this particular Marine has at work. Some stress that's going on at work. Some stress that's happening at work. And he and I have NET'd several times, but I had to remind him, just because he's a very physical guy, very similar to me, right? Kind of type A personality. And he likes to know why things work. And he's like, well, why is it going back to the age that we already covered? Well, do you guys think when you have a traumatic emotional event that it's probably like an octopus and there are multiple tentacles related to that octopus? What do I mean? Some of you have allergies to food, and it's only certain foods, right? You're like, well, I can eat all this stuff, but there's one thing, that's spinach, man. It just makes me get into hives, and I start throwing up, and bad stuff happens, right? And we all think that it's because of some mysterious thing. Well, spinach just isn't good for me. I ate too much of it. There is a physical component to that. There is a lot of research and proof that shows if I eat something too much, I will become allergic to it. But what about if you were eating something and you had an emotional trigger or you had an emotional trauma? Do you think that your brain could associate a food with a trauma? So then every time you eat that food until you break that pattern, your brain associates the two as the same? That's what the research is saying from a neuroimmunology standpoint. That's what it's saying. So do you think if that's happening and I'm eating these foods and there's a past traumatic event, do you think I'm going to maybe have what we call digestive issues, bloating, gastric reflux, gut permeability? Is that always going to show up on a blood test? If I go into a medical doctor, are they going to be like, let me do the blood test and you're in the parameters, and are they always going to be able to find it? No. Because you can be in a dysfunctional adrenal state, liver state, digestive state, and it not show up on a blood test. How many of you believe that's true? And some of you have actually experienced that firsthand in this office, haven't you? Some of you had your hair falling out, your fingernails falling out, and they told you that your thyroid was okay. Oh, you're okay now. Everything's good. We checked it on the blood test. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like a chia pet. I got all this hair coming out. And I'm not going to have much hair left. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Tomorrow I have to wear a wig, right? We don't want that to happen. So that's why we got to get everybody checked, because how many people have never even heard of what a microbiome is? How many people knew about a microbiome before tonight? Raise your hand. Okay, we got about 6 people in the room, 7 people, right? How many people knew that that was connected to problems you're having right now in your life from a health perspective? Okay, we got 2. So before we had 7 out of 20 or 30 or 40, right? And now we have 2 out of 20, 30 or 40, right? How many people knew that everything I just talked about would influence your adrenal glands, your digestive system? That if you ate a food, well, there's so many other people out there that don't know that, right? We got to educate them, because every day that we have a stress and we're not removing it, it's affecting our neurology. And what does that lead to? Anxiety, depression, and insomnia. So many of us think that if we have a health concern, that it's always just one part of our body that's going to cause that area of the body to break down. That it's one specific reason. Oh, it has to be because of my car wreck. Or it has to be because of this. Or my dad died and it was right after my dad died. Can that trigger certain processes to go bad in your body? Certain physiological functions to go south? Yeah, absolutely it can. But is that like the one and only thing? Is that the only reason? Is that the starting point? No, it started long before that. That microbiome started breaking down way before that. So that's what I want you to understand. I want you to understand that this is a progressive process, and it's something we have to constantly work on. We have to constantly work on our emotional stress to stay in state. Constantly have to do that. So it's not just a food thing. It's not just an emotional thing. It's a physical, chemical, emotional thing. I was doing a talk a couple of weeks ago for a church, and one of the things I really, really stressed was the idea of finding a safe place. Finding a place where you can totally let go. Finding a place where you walk in and you instantly, your stomach relaxes, your neck relaxes, your jaw relaxes. And that might not be in your house. If you're married, it might not be your house, right? It might not be your house. It just might not, right? And it might be. There might still be an area that you can be totally relaxed. Might be your business, might not be your business. You have to find an area where you can totally let go and totally be in a love state. You know, my mentor and dear friend, Dr. Ray Olmid, says that, he told me years ago, he said, whenever you're out of balance with God, whenever you get out of state, the number one priority you have is to get in state as quickly as possible. Get back in alignment with God. So how do we do that? How do we get into our love space? How do we get into our heart space? What does that do for our body? Well, I doggone guarantee you, it doesn't break down that microbiome. I guarantee you, it doesn't take away that gut flora and cause more permeability. Because all the research I was reading today and yesterday and this past weekend, whether it's GERD or all these irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, all these autoimmune conditions, there's a million of them out there. The number one thing they said was continued stress over a long period of time. And most of us, we don't even know that it's happening, do we? We're like, oh, I'm not stressed, doc. This is what I call this Jimmy Buffett syndrome, right? It's the guy that's like, oh, everything's fine. It's cool. No big deal. And that guy's really like even keel. You could like punch him in the face and he would just, hey, yeah, that was fun, thanks. Right? He wouldn't even react. Like, seriously? Right? And it's that type of thing, right? He's just like non-reactive. And some of us are like, man, I wish I could be that way. No, you don't. Because what's he doing with all those emotions? He's holding them in. So who's it hurting? Yeah, it's hurting him. So that's what I want you to understand. We got to get this stuff out in a positive way. And what all the research shows is getting into that heart-centered place, getting into that love state, it's going to help us do that. So for me, my safe place is the beach, anywhere where my little boy is, except when he's teething, right? Because that like blood-curdling like scream just makes me want to like jump out a window. It's like I feel defenseless. If you're a parent, you know how that is. It's just horrible. You know, you feel like he's talking to you, like saying, why aren't you helping me? You know what I mean? Like he has your code. Like it's like, what do they call it? Oh gosh, Morse code, thank you. Like it's Morse code and he's trying to tap into your brain and tell you, I'm sending you a message, Dad. You're like, oh, quit messing with me, you Vulcan. You know, you Star Trek, you've got this Vulcan mind grip on me, right? But so except when that's happening, what I like to do is anywhere where my son is, I listen to a band called Casting Crowns. That really helps me get into a love state because every time, even before I come out and do talks or whatever, I'm in tears listening to that band. Absolute tears listening to it. Every single time. Do you think that's creating more or less gut permeability? And what we mean by, we want our gut to be permeable. We want things to be able to like process and the nutrients to be able to break down and go certain places, right? But if we have too much, it's like a sift. Right? If you're trying to strain spaghetti, you don't want the holes too big because what does the spaghetti do? It goes in your sink, right? We don't want that with your nutrients. And that's what stress does. That's what emotional stress does. So whatever your safe place is, that's what you need to discover. So that would be an action step leaving from this workshop tonight that you could do. Discover what your safe place is and guess how you're going to know if you're in the safe place or the love place. You're going to feel your whole body relax. You're not going to be thinking about anything. You're not going to be like, oh, I got to send out that email to work. Or I better text, right? You're not doing that. You're like, let me leave the cell phone off. Let me relax. Let me have time to myself. Let me draw my boundaries so I have that every day. Because you deserve that. You deserve that. And that'll add life to your years and years to your life. And that's what we want. So we got to find a place where we get in a love state. We got to find a place where we get centered, right? What about service? Do you think that puts you in a heart space? And lowers those cortisol and those high levels of stress hormones? Yeah. Anytime we go into service. So what can service look like? Service can be as simple as being at a grocery store, telling the guy who's bagging your groceries, thank you. Hugging somebody here, hugging somebody on the street, saying thank you to someone, total stranger, just smiling at somebody. It doesn't have to be some elaborate thing. If I say service to you guys are like, he wants me to go all day Saturday and serve at a homeless shelter and serve food, and I only have like a few minutes on the weekend to myself. I'm not saying that. But anything that's going to move you. If I've had a bad day, what do? Hold my son, and then I go serve you guys, and I love you guys up. So when I'm even more weird than I usually am, that's usually when I'm trying to get back in a service mode. So these are things we want to do to lower that sympathetic stress. Because, you know, I've recently heard of in my chamber, and we're members of 3 different chambers, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say what chamber, so I'm not going to mention it, since we are taping, right? Don't worry, we're not hacking anybody's phones right now or anything like that. But 8 people died in this chamber in the last year. They committed suicide. So how does that start? Well, it starts from a flawed microbiome, for sure, right? But it starts because year after year, somebody's experiencing emotional stress and their bucket is getting full and they're not emptying it. They're getting too much chemical, physical, emotional stress. The chemical part could be from your fluoride toothpaste, right? Could be radiation from your microwave. It could be the mattress that you sleep on. Could be the fabrics in your clothes, right? The dyes in your clothes. The food that you're eating, or Uncle Sam's chemtrails. It's not a conspiracy. It's totally true. You look at the, there's graphs out there on Google where you can see the correlation between cancer, and you can see the correlation between the chemtrails and the increase of bromide and aluminum into the atmosphere. So that's what I want you to know. So all these things, right, create a perfect storm. All of them create a perfect storm for our body to be in a state where that bucket overflows. Then we've got emotional stresses. Then we've got physical ones. We've got car wrecks. We're falling, right? We're falling all the time. And, you know, I had somebody recently came in and, Doc, I just, you know, don't worry about it. I just got in a minor car wreck. It was a minor car wreck. Or don't worry, it was just a normal headache, a normal migraine. How many people don't know about this stuff? How many people don't take it seriously that they need to proactively and actively work on it all the time? Because you're always moving in 2 directions, aren't you, folks? So that's why I'm always telling you and I'm always coaching you, not getting on to you, but coaching you that, man, we got to work on this stuff. We have to be hyper vigilant. We have to be hyper vigilant now. We don't have time to mess around. Because what happens is your interleukins, your interferons, your tumor necrosis factor, those cells that fight for you, the Marines of your immune system, when that bucket gets too full, they check out. And what will eventually happen when that microbiome just gets destroyed enough is those cells start attacking each other. And that's when we call it an autoimmune condition, right? That's when we call it an autoimmune condition. I mean, everybody in here doesn't have to worry about that because you guys are actively working on it. But if we're not doing all our stuff, can we be susceptible to some of these things? If we're not doing all our homework? Because my wife's going to do her part, right? I'm going to do my part. I'm going to give you 120% every day. But you got to add that in. You got to, I'm not saying if you're, I was telling somebody last night, I was saying, I'd rather have a C student than an F student. What's an F student? Somebody that's not even in here doing anything, right? They never came in. They're not getting checked. They're not actively doing anything about their nervous system. An A student is somebody that's just doing everything. God bless them, right? I'd love to have a bunch of A students, but I'll take C students that are trying to be A students because I know that you're doing your best. I know that your heart's in it because you're showing up here. Because I have to appeal to multiple audiences, don't I? So there might be somebody in here that's, Doc, I know more about neuroimmunology than you do. Okay, cool. Well, teach me something, brother. God bless you. Right? Teach me something. I'd love to learn from you. So anything that we can learn from each other is always a good thing. But even if we only get one little seed out of a talk, because I did a seminar this past weekend, first couple hours, I was, it was a little boring for me. But then he ramped it up, man. He just, he blew me away. This doctor blew me away. He's got like 5 degrees, like 500 letters after his name, right? Blew me away with connecting all the pieces together. How the different cellular, the Th1 cells and the Th2 helper cells, how they work with the microbiome and all that and what they do to our body. And I'm not going to go too much in detail of that because I don't want to blow it blew my mind. So if it blew my mind, I don't want to connect all the pieces. Plus, we only got a little bit of time, right?
No, go ahead.
But you can see how these things are connected, right? And how if that bucket is overflowing, we're going to have major problems. And what's the first system that's going to break down? What system do you think? When our microbiome starts to explode and that bucket starts to implode, right? Overflow, what's going to take place in our body? What's going to break down first? What system in your body? Yeah, your immune system, right? And once your immune system breaks down, what do you think the glands are inside of you that are going to start to dysfunction? We already talked about them. I'm just asking you a different way. Definitely endocrine, so the neurotransmitters are going to break down. But what I was really looking for is adrenal glands, your liver, and your digestion. Is the hormonal systems, is that going to be part of it? Absolutely, because your thymus is a central organ, right? It's a central organ that is affiliated with your nervous system. So is your hypothalamus, right? But we know that in order for everything to work, generally we can say the brain has to be able to communicate with the spinal cord, and then those nerve signals have to be able to go to the adrenals, they got to go to the liver, and they got to go to that stomach area to be able to digest and process all those nutrients. So the nervous system is the number one thing. So we also know that we're going to have to look at emotional stress. Now, what about healing this microbiome? When it's screwed up, what about healing it? Because some of you came in, you got leaky gut, you got a lot going on. Can we repair it? Can we heal it? Yes. Absolutely. Because your body produces 7,000 new tissue cells, heart cells, lung cells every single day. So it can definitely heal, but it takes time, takes repetition. Can we heal it with just diet alone? Because what if it's not diet related? What if it's a past stress that you had when you were 5, right? What if you're like me and your dad was really abusive? What if there's somebody else in your family that was really abusive to you? Or what if there's somebody in your family that made you feel like you weren't good enough? What if you got made fun of in high school? So if we don't break that emotional pattern, that gut flora and that good bacteria, it's never going to heal. It's always going to stay permeable. But the first thing we want to do is get that nervous system working, right? Get that brain to spinal cord communication going so that gut flora can repair, so that all that good bacteria that's in that gut can start to repair. And how do we do that? Nervous system first, and then we're going to look at subluxation support. So things like chlorophyll, ochrapepsin, right? Those are good things for the gut, right? But notice how I said nervous system first. Now, why did I say that? Because if I have a factory, right? If I have a factory and I'm giving that factory scrap parts, that doesn't work to make a BMW, does it? But if I have a factory and I just got the building, but all my workers are on vacation, and I'm like, hey guys, we got a great shipment in, you know, it's from BMW, we can make these cars, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I'm on break, I'm on vacation, right? I'm not working for you. That doesn't really work either, right? So we have to have a nervous system intact, the factory's got to be intact, and then we've got to give the factory, we can't give it scrap parts, we got to give it good material. That way it can process and make a good car. If I give your factory scrap parts, it's going to make a Pinto. It's not going to be able to make a BMW, right? So when we talk subluxation support, that's what we're talking about. Only we're talking about really, really high dose, concentrated stuff. Because the body is going to innately carry those nutrients wherever the body needs it. That's the brilliance of your nervous system. But only on a working nervous system. Only on a nervous system that's unsubluxated. Only on one where that brain to spinal cord pathways are open to get to all the access points that they need to go to. So some of you might be healing, surgical scars or have, surgical wounds, and I've talked to you about certain subluxation support products that can help that area of the body. Some of you might have certain pains in your body, weakness, coordination issues, whatever. And a huge part of that could be emotional. So we're going to look at the emotional part, but we got to look at the subluxation support too after we get the nervous system working like it's supposed to. That's got to happen. And some of you might be thinking, well, why can't I just do it with greens? And this goes back to another advanced healthcare class, right? Well, you can't just do it with foods now because our foods, that goes back to our chemical stress in the triangle, right? So many of our foods are polluted. Our water's polluted, right? And I don't want to get anybody depressed here, right? But our water's polluted. We have a lot of food that is GMO'd out, right? It's got pesticides on it and herbicides and just really, really gnarly, right? So you can tell I've been in California a while, right? It's really, really gnarly. It's not functioning right. It's not working right. Doesn't have the nutrients. It doesn't even look the same. Some of these tomatoes are like super tomatoes. They last like 10 years. They're like, it never like rots or starts to decay. I don't know. This is like going to give me a bicep like twice the size of everybody I know, right? It's like a super tomato, a superfood. That's the wrong type of superfood. We don't want those. We don't want those superfoods, right? So that's what I want you to understand. We got to start to take all these things into consideration related to our health. Really take a good look at it. Because the more that we're not looking at it, the more we're not addressing it, the more it affects digestion. Everything goes back to the digestive tract. Everything. But you got to have a working immune system and nervous system in particular for that stomach and that digestive system to work. So I can't stress enough to you, if you're not doing your breathing, please get on it. 49 breaths twice a day. Let's find like a safe place in our house. Everybody this week needs to work on a safe place where you can relax. 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day to calm yourself down. Because some of you eat standing up and you eat driving to work. And you think, well, I don't know why I like pooting out my tail and I got this going on and I can't digest and, I'm going from diarrhea to constipation back to diarrhea. That's called IBS. Well, it's because you're eating standing up and you're doing work while you're eating and you're all stressed out and all keyed up because the boss is calling you or whatever and you're trying to eat. That's supposed to be a parasympathetic process, a rest and digest process. So we got fight or flight, we got rest and digest. Rest and digest, it's called rest and digest for that very reason, right? We don't want to be in the woods running from a bear and trying to eat an organic burger. Right? Notice how I said organic burger. Or a Twinkie even. Definitely don't want to be eating that. But imagine running from a bear and you're trying to stuff a Twinkie in your mouth. Or stuff anything in your mouth. It doesn't work. Those systems were designed to be separate. So let's start looking at this. Find your safe place. Find something that opens your heart. Start doing your breathing. Stay up on your traction. Is traction important? Absolutely. But what's the most important thing that we do in the office? What do you think it is? We connect people to that innate intelligence up here, right? Inborn intelligence, that's what science calls it. That's a working brain and nervous system, a working brain to spinal cord to nerve communication. That's got to be working or nothing's going to work. Doesn't matter what we're doing. Does not matter what we're doing. If this isn't working, nothing's going to work. So what does the emotional work do? It just supports that. It supports that. Because how many people here, can you be subluxated and can your angles be horrible, your nervous system totally thrown off just because of emotional stress? And so of course your digestion is going to follow. If you're telling yourself you suck every day, how do you think you're going to be able to break down and digest food? Anybody ever read a book by Dr. Candace Pert called Molecules of Emotion? Go read it. It's about, I would say it's at least 20, 25 years old. P-E-R-T. And what Dr. Pert talks about is they basically, under an electron microscope, they looked at water molecules, right? And under these different microscopes, they started looking at what do water molecules do under like classical music, with playing classical music, and what do they do under rock music? And how does that impact, how does that translate into your nervous system? In particular, how does that translate to your cells? And what they found is your cells don't divide and multiply under a stress state. So if you're trying to heal tissue cells, heart cells, lung cells, or digestive cells, if you're stressed out all the time, does that inhibit your body's ability to heal? Absolutely. So we go back to that gut permeability thing again. So you hear me harp on adrenal glands, you hear me harp all the time on liver support, right? You hear me harp all the time on digestive support. We all need that, whether we're vegan, vegetarian, no matter what we're eating, we all need that to support our system because we're not getting the nutrients that we need for our body to be as healthy as it can be. I'm probably at least the top 10, because some of you are like even beyond me. But I'm pretty close to the top 10 of healthy, really watch what I eat eaters. I should be, right? Some of you are even beyond me. I'll say that, right? So even though I do that, what I know is I'm not getting all the food and nutrients I should. There's going to be certain minerals I'm going to be deficient in if I don't supplement my nervous system and allow my body to take in other things that it's not getting from food. Because the moment you cook the food, right, many of you know that that's going to take some of those nutrients out. Now if you add a pesticide, a herbicide, or whatever to it, and then if you add the fact that you were stressed when you ate it, or thinking about something else when you ate it, and energetically, maybe you were even stressed when you bought it. And that does a certain neuroimmunological, like there's an association with that too. Because now there's like a lack mentality, you're getting the food and then you're eating it and you think it like the food sucks, right? Before you eat it, right? You put it in your mouth, you're like, oh, I hate this food. It cost me $20 to get this, right? And you're like resentful towards your salad, right? That creates some stuff in your stomach, doesn't it? It's funny, but it's so true. It is so true, and that's why it's funny, right? So that's what I want you to understand about your body. All these things are connected. So my action steps for you tonight, what I want you to leave with is let's really work on what are we doing? Let's look in the mirror and say, what can we do better? Are we an A student now? Are we a B student? Are we a C student? Nobody's going to be an F, but where are we? And what do you want to see change in your body? What are you not doing for your digestive process? Because that's going to influence every part of your health. You know, I'll never forget the guy that told me, I told him to sleep on his back with pillows under his knees, no pillow under his neck or head, right? And he came in and he's like, Doc, it's been so rough. I haven't slept for 3 weeks. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you know, I was trying the sleeping on the back thing and it just didn't work out. And so, you know, I've been getting like 1 hour of sleep at night. Because he was trying to sleep on his back, but he wasn't falling asleep at all. He missed the part where I said, hey, you can turn over and, you know, if you're not sleeping, you can go to your side and stuff like that. But all these things influence our system. And it's not about like getting stressed out when we do them. It's doing them to the best of our ability. And if you're giving 120%, God bless you. I'm still going to try to push you to 150%, right? But if you're giving 120%, God will work huge changes in your life. Because He's the healer around here. He's the healer around here. So let's find a safe place. Let's make our appointments on time. All right? Let's get back on our traction if we've maybe fallen off a little bit. All right? And more importantly, let's get on our breathing. Let's get on our breathing. There's so many people, I ask them, you know, are you doing the 49 breaths twice a day? Oh no, Doc, I'm only doing it once. I haven't felt anything change though. I do it like one time for 3 days and then I miss like 3 weeks. And I don't know why it's not changing. It just doesn't make sense to me. All right? Well, because it's a process that's very predictable, but it has to be done a certain way. If you haven't done an NET yet, you can ask for an NET and we'll test you. And if you need one, we'll schedule you. Okay? We'll schedule you for that. All right? We're going to have a workshop pretty soon on some home NET things that you can do to relieve stress. When maybe we can't fit you in the schedule or something like that, there's certain acupressure points you can access and certain ways that you can release that stress. Was anybody here in this group in the workshop we did probably about a year ago on Dr. Caroline Leaf, Switch on Your Brain? Okay. Awesome book, right?
Oh, yes.
Did it change your life?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's another book that I would recommend for everybody in here related to emotional stress, right? So we know we got to find the safe place, right? We know we got to do our stuff, we got to do our breathing, and then Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Caroline Leaf. Great, great book. Read the entire book, don't skip to the back, right? But the golden nuggets are in the back, and there's steps on a 21-day emotional detox you can do. And normally what I do is I tell people about that book as they progress, right, with their care, because I don't want to give people too much homework initially or they get overwhelmed. Some people do, right? But that would be a good book for everybody here. Get that book, buy it, start applying that to your life, right? Do you think that you want to go in a safe place that's maybe, like if you have a backyard and there's a bunch of used cars there and an old tire and dead plants and stuff, do you want to go back there and try to like get centered with God and feel abundant and all that? It's probably not going to work, right? Yeah. If your backyard, and I'm not making fun, but if it's not a place that makes you feel abundant, you don't want to go there, right? Like right now on my balcony, I stare out into some old trees and like a road, right? And it's in South Carlsbad. We're about to change that. We're going to move in 2 months, right? Nice area of Carlsbad, nice apartment, condo complex, right? But they gave us like this balcony that stares out at a couple of dead trees in the road. So we never go out on the balcony. It's like a storage facility, right? Why am I going to go there? So that's definitely not my safe place, because if I went there, I'd be angry, right? So find your safe place where it makes you feel abundant, where it makes you feel emotionally free. Do your breathing, okay? And let's start to really get in a state of gratitude for what's working in our life. Because sometimes it's really easy to focus on what's not working, isn't it? I always use the old adage that, oh, doc, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, but my right big toe is not healed yet. Well, first of all, you got that mixed up because God's the healer in this practice. I'm not, right? God is. And the second thing that's a little mixed up is every process requires time. So it requires time for you to get better and for you to heal. It just takes time. But it's also about what you do. It's about what you do. That's a huge part of this. All right? So let's get on board with all the different techniques and things we're supposed to be doing at home. If you're supposed to be foam rolling or doing stretches, start doing that. You don't just do that every once in a while. Okay? And that's all I got tonight. Does anybody have any questions about anything we discussed? Very complicated subject, so I wanted to be brief, give you some take-home items. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about the microbiome, adrenal fatigue or failure, liver digestive problems in general, what we can do about it, what we can do for you, your friends and family, and where you are with your care even, as far as that goes? No questions? Yes, ma'am. I think that's very different per individual. So I think that's very individual specific, so to speak. So what I would say to that is just, after you do the breathing, check in with your body. How are you feeling? Are you feeling like do you still feel bloated? Do you still feel anxious, right? Because how many of us kind of know when we're starting to get triggered or when we get worked up? We all kind of know that about ourselves for the most part. What I would recommend too, again, is just really get into your heart space. Right? So try to find something, like I said, it's casting crowns for me. Might be that for you, it might not be that for you. Whatever puts you in a love state, when that thought process leaves your brain, when you're not really thinking about it, could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, when you notice that you're smiling or that your mood is kind of changing, then that would probably be a good time to eat. But I can guarantee you can shift that energy and shift that focus really quickly if you focus on getting in a love state, getting in a gratitude state. How many people in here have been really angry about something, and when you thought about something that just melted your heart, or maybe you looked at a picture of a baby, or if it's animals for you or whatever, that event or that person or whatever, even a hug from a friend, right, has totally shifted your energy. Like, oh my goodness, I was totally having a bad day until you came over. Or if your cat's name is Dylan, hey, Flufftail, I was totally having a bad day till you came over and put your cute little furry tail on me, right? We all have that. And whatever it is for you, that's when you're going to know, okay, I'm ready to eat again. I'm ready to have that meal, right? Did I answer your question? So it's kind of subjective there, but you innately know that. You innately know that. I know you do. But that's a great question because some people don't know that, so we just gave them some tips on how they can access that. All right? Any other questions? I'm going to shut up now. God bless you guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you got something out of tonight. Appreciate it.
But the voice of truth